Hello, how are you? I hope you're all chevre, gesund, stark und freilich, begashmis und beruchnis. Healthy, strong, and happy physically and spiritually. Hashem should help that all those that need a refuah shlema should be healed immediately, and that the magefa should stop now. As usual, we'll start with a pasuk from the Rebbe's new kapitel, and this pasuk, I remember when I first started saying it, I thought that this pasuk represents perfectly the moment as we're about to receive the Torah at Har Sinai, and that pasuk is Ve'esacha payil mitzvah sherahavti v'asicha v'chukecha. I will lift up my hands to receive your commandments, which I love, and I will speak of your statutes. So this is like na'asa codem lנשמע. We're lifting up our hands. It's a gesture like we're in position. We're in prime position. We're ready, willing, and able to receive the commandments. We're waiting for it. We can't wait. We're lifting up both hands to just grab it, to receive it, absorb it. And therefore, since we love it, we're not going to stop talking about it. Something a person loves, they speak about constantly. Now, there's a very interesting question concerning the Yom Tov of Shavuos, which I once saw an explanation of the Rebbe. I saw another explanation of the Rebbe, which I'm not going to talk about, but the following explanation I saw somewhere, but I cannot find it again. And the question is, why is it that Chag Shavuos is the only Yom Tov which does not have a special mitzvah? Mitzvahs hayom. Rosh Hashanah we blow the Shofar. Yom Kippur we have the 5 mitzvahs connected to Inuyim. Matzah, Pesach we eat matzah. You now have chometz. Sukkot you have to sit in a sukkah. So the question is, why is it that Chag Shavuos does not have a mitzvah hayom? True, there's a special korban, a unique korban that we bring on Shavuos that we don't bring on any other day of the year. But that's not really mitzvah hayom. Every Yom Tov, all the other Yom Tov also have a unique korban that they bring on that day. And in addition to that unique korban, they also have a mitzvah hayom. So why is it that Shavuos does not have a mitzvah, a special mitzvah that we're obligated to do? So the answer is connected with what made the Jews the nation to receive the Torah. On a simple level, everyone knows the story that the Yidden said, "Na'sa kodim lנשמע." As the Gemara says, and there's a medrash, Hashem went to every single nation and asked them if they want to receive the Torah, and they said, "What's in it for me? Is it worth it? Do I really want it?" And every single nation was told different prohibition. You're not allowed to steal, you're not allowed to kill, you're not allowed to commit adultery. And they all said, but we live that way. Each nation has unique vice that they would like to follow. And when it came to the Yidden said, "Na'asa codem lנשמע." Something which is unheard of. You sign the contract before even reading what it says in the contract. That's in a way, what does it mean when we say "Na'asa codem lנשמע"? And in Hasidic terminology, it's explained that the difference between saying "Na'asa codem lנשמע," we will do and then we will hear, to saying we will hear and then we will do, is the difference between reaching a level which is called Ratzon, Hashem's will, or reaching the level of Hashem which is called Baal Ratzon, the master of the will. In other words, there's one level where we're talking about details, and there's another level where we're talking about the whole general authority, without talking about the details. Similar to a discussion, a famous mimer of the Tzemach Tzedek, where he talks about whether belief in God is a mitzvah or not. And he brings the famous Abarbanel that says, you can't say that belief in the existence of God is a mitzvah. Why? Because what does the word mitzvah mean? Mitzvah means commandment. If there's a commandment, that means we're going with the premise that there is already a commander. So, it has no meaning. There's a commandment to believe in a commander. Then the word commandment has no definition. Makes no sense. So therefore we can't say that there's one of the 613 commandments is to believe in a commander. First you have to accept the existence of a commander, and then he can give you commandments. Now it's the same thing, so that's also the famous Maimer Azal, Kiblu Malchusai, V'achach Kiblu Gzereisai. First we have to accept the king as the ruler, as the authority, and then you can accept his decrees. And the same thing is, let's say when we talk about a relationship, let's say you have a husband and wife, and they have difficulties, and one of them says, maybe we should go to the marriage counselor. And the other one sadly might say, God forbid, who says I'm interested in continuing the relationship at all. So that's a much deeper problem on a whole sad level, a whole different level. So in other words, first we have to have that bond, that connection where we're interested in each other. We want to stay together. Where you go, I go. We're in this forever together. That comes first. Kiblu Malchusai. And then, if we're really interested in staying together, then we can talk about each spouse, how they can improve and become better in their ways. And talk about each one, looking at the details of the ways they didn't do so well and how they will improve. So this is what it means, Chag HaShavuos, that we're reaching Bal Hartzon. This is the Yidden saying, Na'aseh Codim Lishma. Before they even hear the details, they say, I'm with you, I'm yours, forever. And that shows on a connection which bypasses, transcends intellect, as we spoke many times, essence to essence. And this is also, without getting into it, in a certain sense, how Shavuos is even higher than Rosh Hashanah. This whole explanation that I gave till now is sometimes explained similarly concerning Rosh Hashanah, but still Rosh Hashanah we do have a mitzvah, blowing shofar, mitzvah היום. That means that this idea of reaching Bal Hartzon, essence to essence, before we speak about any details, is more pure on Shavuos than even on Rosh Hashanah. So therefore, in that sense, it comes out that Shavuos is the highest yontiv of the entire year. This is the beginning of the beginning, where we tell Hashem, we're in this together. We're loyal, dedicated, and devoted no matter what. Oh, so now we understand why Shavuos is so important and its similarity to Rosh Hashanah. As we see in the Yom of Dalet Sivan and Gimel Sivan, it says basically that we should utilize the time of Shavuos to do everything possible to advance one's Torah study, and also to fix and mend any improvements that we should have done or we should do when it comes to the learning and studying of Torah. So I just want to finish with the famous analogy, which is the beautiful analogy of the Barditchever, which he said concerning Rosh Hashanah, but mostly we don't speak about it on Shavuos. But since we spoke today how Shavuos is even higher than Rosh Hashanah, so we should remember and remind ourselves of this mashal of the Barditchever that he spoke about on Rosh Hashanah. And this teaches us a lesson, what we're meant to focus on and to arouse within us for Shavuos. And that is the famous mashal of the Barditchever for Tkiya Shofar was as follows. He said, what's the sound of the shofar that we blow on Rosh Hashanah? That's the sound of the shofar of Har Sinai, of Matan Torah. That means when we stand before the Eibishter judgment on Rosh Hashanah, we blow the shofar to remind Hashem that we were there for him. And he gives the famous analogy of the king that was in a hunting expedition and he got lost from his party, and it's the middle of the night and the king is terrified. He hears noises, the wolves, the bears. Every step he takes in the darkness, he doesn't know if it's going to be safe. He's stumbling, he's bruised, he's bleeding. And as he is totally alone in the dark, he sees a cabin from a distance. He knocks on the door opens, and there's a person and says, King, what happened to you? The king says, you recognize me? Sure. You think I'm stupid? I think about you, the person says to the king. Of course I know what you look like. You're my favorite person in the world. Anyways, the king tells him the story. I'm lost. I don't know how to get back to the palace. The guy says, the person who's in the in that house, don't worry, sleep here tonight. We'll take care of you. And he says, excuse me, I really can't give you any royal furnishing. You'll have to sleep on my bed. His bed is a bed of straw. The king sleeps on that bed of straw. He gets up in the morning. He says, I slept on a bed of straw, but it was the best sleep I had in my entire life. This person takes him back to the palace, and the king says, I'm so full of gratitude. I don't know what I would have done without you. I don't even know if I'd be alive. And everything would have gone lost. My kingdom, my country, everything. I'm making you a minister, and he makes him a royal minister in a very important position. Now, this king had a custom. He'd like to collect memorabilia of his adventures. So he had like a room where he'd go to, and he had his trophies and medals and things. So he took the clothes, the torn, tattered clothes that he was wearing in the forest, and he hung it up in that room to remember that adventure. Anyways, one day, many years later, this person did something wrong, the one who had saved the king many, many years before, and he was judged, and the verdict was death. As we all know in many stories, this dead man's wish. They said, do you have a wish? He said, I only have one wish. What's my wish? My wish is that the king should dress in the clothes that he wore the night he came banging on my cabin, and I should also be wearing the same clothes that I wore. And I should be able to just stand before the king without saying a word. And that's what happens. He stood before the king, dressed as he was that night, and the king dressed as he was that night. The king looked at him, and it stirred within him again all the original feelings of love and gratitude that he felt for this person, that this person took care of him so well and brought him back and reinstated him, so to speak, to life and his entire kingdom. So too the Barditchever says, this is what happened by Mountain Torah. Hashem goes from nation to nation, and their whole connection to Hashem is conditional. If it works out to a certain degree, as long as it's convenient, it fits my profile. But Bnei Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Yisrael, Reaffirming, Kul Echad, it's unconditional loyalty, unconditional attachment. And this is what makes a Yid special. And this is what we have to arouse within ourselves. When it comes to Chag Shavuos, we look inside ourselves and we think in the general terms, besides what we mentioned before, how we could fix and go higher and improve. We also have to think about our general bond, like reaffirming the vows, like in a relationship, so to speak. We reaffirm our general, essential connection. And the Eibusher should help that this outpouring of love that we will arouse in ourselves towards Hashem will reciprocate with an infinite outpouring of love from Hashem to us, and this will bring the Geula Mitzvah Shleima now. The Kabbalah Satira, B'simcha u'b'pnimis. Posting from my home, Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, your man in Melbourne.